Welcome back to the Golf Podcast. Today we're talking about golf records that will never be broken. Mm-hmm. And I know never is a big word. It's saying a lot.
I'm going to try to argue some of them.
But when you see these records, you're going to see why they will never be broken. And to a certain extent, a lot of this, you're going to find a couple surprises on here because we found a couple surprises ourselves. But as you can imagine, there's a bit of this that's the Tiger Woods show.
For sure.
And it will really, I mean, for me, just researching this, it just put into even deeper, perspective.
Some of them blew your mind, huh?
How good he is and how dominant he truly
I almost
was.
wish that we could go back in those times and watch golf, or at least me, watch it more religiously.
Yeah.
After seeing these.
Well, I think if nothing else, we're fortunate to have lived in an age when we can watch Tiger.
Yep.
Saw some of this. Because there's some records here. You think like Byron Nelson. Mm-hmm. There's a record on here by Byron Nelson that'll never be beat. And not in any way knocking the strength of field in his era. I think he was so dominant himself. But there's records that put into perspective as golf becomes and as golf became and evolved to become such a competitive sport. And you had so many more athletes growing in interest to be part of the sport, making the field stronger and stronger. And I think what Tiger did with some very strong fields was absolutely incredible. And I think it's part of why, and we're going to open up the comments to you guys to debate this too. Do you truly feel like some of these are unbreakable? As records, as fields become stronger and stronger and stronger, it's just going to be harder and harder for these records to be broken.
I'm going to try to find one on this list that I'm going to argue could be broken.
Okay.
It might be tough, but let's see.
Well, we'll take a look at that. And what we will dive into a little bit later is there are some records that seem insurmountable.
Okay.
But are arguably breakable. So we'll dive into a couple that can be broken as well. But let's kick this right off and go right into it.
What are we jumping with first?
Phil, lefty.
Okay.
Okay, so get this.
What do we got?
Phil Mickelson spent 26 years inside the official World Golf Rankings top 50.
Wow.
26 years. Okay. 1,353 straight weeks. Now, this is also a straight run record. This isn't he dipped out and he came back into the top 50. From 1993 until 2019, Phil was in the top 50. Now you think about the official World Golf Rankings. Just think about a guy like, let's say, a Ricky Fowler, who was a staple for many years. And just, you knew Ricky was always in the top 50. But now, no longer. He's fallen out of it. You just think a guy of that caliber, a name of that big, can maybe, if they can get 8 years, 10 years in the top 50 is incredible. So 26 weeks.
I'd label that a successful career.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking, obviously, everybody here, we're talking Hall of Fame careers.
Oh, 100%.
But again, the perspective of how good for so long. And even give you a little more perspective on this. Rory McIlroy, he would need to stay in the top 50 for 15 more seasons in order to beat Mickelson. So Rory would have to stay in top 50 until he's 48 years old.
Maybe Liv will give him motivation
to
stay fit, healthy, and ride it all the way to beat that record.
And who knows, too. Liv has been the biggest shakeup that golf has seen in decades, but that's one thing that's up in the air. They are fighting hard to be included in the points ranking for the official Golf World Rankings. So if they do, that could shake things up. But Rory would have to be 48. And I know that would be the closest thing you might think, okay, Rory could possibly do it. But Rory's already kind of expressed that he doesn't want to be playing at this competitive level that old, at that age.
Yeah.
I could see Rory being a guy who gets to what's Tiger now? How old is Tiger?
48, maybe 49?
I think it's 46.
6? Am I off there? We're going to go to fact check.
We're going to fact check. We're going to live fact check.
I almost called you Jack. Wow. Sorry. Sorry, Zach.
You got to hit that coffee this morning. 46 years old.
46.
So, okay,
December 30th.
Fact checkers when you got Frank here. Come on.
Right.
I get 90% of them wrong.
Yep.
But think about that. You think about the way Tiger competes now. So picking and choosing. He's far less concerned with his overall official World Golf Ranking. Give us this official World Golf Ranking.
Roars?
No, Tiger.
I would also probably, if there's any guy that could beat that record and stay physically fit and strong, I think it's Rory.
But what I mean is, like, take a guy like Tiger, right? He's far less concerned at this point in his life.
Wow, 1100.
He's ranked 1100th, right? And it's because Tiger's far less concerned with the week in, week out grind that it takes to stay in the top 50 or top 100, whatever. He's picking which events he plays in. Obviously, he had a long stint of his injury and he was out. But if let's say in his early 40s, Rory moves into the idea, and I think Rory's 33 now, right? So even after 7 more grinding seasons.
Rory's 33?
I believe Rory's 33 years old. We could double check that too.
Okay.
I mean,
I would have thought he was top 10 with his recent wins.
No, 33 years old.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He's top 2 in the world.
Okay,
right
I was going to say, he's
Rory's
not that
top
bad.
2 in the world. I believe. Okay, so 33. Rory's 33 years old.
Okay.
If you think about Rory, he would have to, like, let's say after another 7 years, he may get to that point where, like, he's maybe playing a couple events each season and playing the majors.
Going after the Masters hard.
100%.
Yep.
That's not going to keep you in the top 50
Nope.
necessarily, unless you're winning a major every year, which would be a whole other record we could talk about here in a second. But 20, so Rory would have to do 15 more years in order to match that. But Phil Mickelson, right off the bat, incredible record, 26 years. It just shows the competitive level that he played at his whole career is impressive.
It's impressive. So let's stamp it. Let's confirm it. Unbreakable?
I think that's unbreakable.
I think it's unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
Boom.
Now forget, there's also a wild card here. You think like little Charlie Woods hiding in the wings over there.
Hiding in the wings.
Might come in one day and who knows, shatter everything here.
It's still 26 years in the top 50.
Regardless.
That's a grind career.
It's a grind.
Okay.
Now, let's just go up the impressive ladder
one
more step here. Tiger Woods spent 683 weeks at world number 1.
That's like my favorite record of all time in any sport.
It is one of the best records in sports. Because now you think about like over the past, let's say even 5 years, how much the world number 1 has changed. It's jumped all over the place.
Yep.
Active golfers. And I'll give you some of the other records that were close or who came close to his 683. And this is like very loosely determined close, right? But active golfers, you got Dustin Johnson and Rory McIlroy have Dustin spent 135 weeks at world number 1.
Yeah, he had a good run.
Well, and that's not even consecutive. He's been 135 weeks under his belt.
Okay.
Rory has 106 weeks. Scotty Scheffler, who's the current world number 1, has 27 weeks. So if anything, that tells you in the past couple of years how much it's bounced around. You've had all different guys, hitting that top number. And I feel like nowadays it's a lot more like the music record charts. You're like, you're happy to hold it for the summer.
The summer, yeah.
You got the summer at number 1, and you're like, yeah, man.
Yep.
Now it's like, forget it. Tiger, he had 2 crazy streaks that really came part of this. His first was a 264-week stretch. Tiger was the world number 1 golfer from August of 1999 until September of 2004. And when we talk later about some of these other unbreakable records, you'll see why. The guy was just a prolific winner, as everyone who knows anything about golf knows. But then he had another 281-week streak. And now we're talking about streaks. Like his consecutive streaks are longer than most people have ever held it over the span of their career. But from June 2005 until October 2010, he was world number 1. Half of a decade.
So you had 99 to like 04, the first one, right?
Yes, he briefly
Something
lost
happened.
I believe there was an injury. I'd have to be
so without the injury, he could have had it for
it's
like
possible.
11 years.
Wait, how many years? How many years did you say that he had at world number 1?
2004. Was that when he had the whole scandal and he had to take
That was 09.
No, that was way later.
That was like 09ish.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like 08, 09.
Because I'm trying to remember and place myself where I was during things.
I think he might have got injured,
but it could have been an injury, whatever it was. So he just from September of 2004 till June of 2005, he had briefly lost world number 1. He'd stepped out of it, and then he got it back in 2005.
Did you say that he was world number 1 for 683 weeks total?
Total.
So that's 13 years.
13 years. Yes.
13 years of being on top.
I mean, absolute pure dominance, and included those 2 streaks, both over 250 weeks. Second on the list is Greg Norman.
Shark.
During his long career, he racked up 331 total
Shark
weeks.
must have been pretty darn good. No, I'm serious. You know, like no one gives the guy enough credit because he didn't really like come through and win it. He folded a lot.
He had a lot of missed opportunities, but he was.
But he must have been a solid, like, I'm not joking. He must have been a good player. You know,
someone just woke Mike up. He's like, no kidding.
Guys, I know Greg Norman was a phenomenal player.
Greg Norman has just
like,
obviously caught a lot of heat the last year or so and been kind of extrasized from the golf community because of Liv.
Of course.
But he had his years when I remember growing up watching golf. I mean, he was one of those guys who was in the hunt on every Sunday.
Oh, yeah. You got to watch.
Every single Sunday.
Like, if you haven't seen it yet, you really have to watch the ESPN 30 for 30 on Greg Norman. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I didn't know anything about him before Liv, and I watched that. It's really good.
Interesting. So I mean, because you don't see like a Jack or an Arnie, or like when did official world golf rankings come about? Do we even know?
That's a great question. I don't know when it was kind of formalized, but at least
they weren't back in like Ben Hogan's days or like
right. I think at least part of
86.
1986.
Okay.
So the huge chunk of both.
I think
of their
Jack's last major was 86. So like those guys were done.
Yeah, and that's something that actually it brings up a really interesting point. The way Jack won and for how many years he won. If there was an official world golf rankings, I bet you he would have been world number one.
Crushed those records.
20 years.
20 years.
You know, it could have very well been. But then again, it bounced back and forth. It could the early years when he and Arnie were going head to head, it could have been a little bit of both. It could have been bouncing back and forth. One and two could have went two different directions.
Was Jack
but that we can only speculate on.
Right.
Jack's obviously way before my time, so I don't really know a lot about him. Was he really like that good, or was he?
Oh, he was dominant.
Just not have the greatest competition. Like, were all the other golfers ridiculously good, or was he just like?
No, Jack. You know, Jack competed against a lot of very good golfers. He 100% did, but he was similar to Tiger's dominance. He kind of changed the game in a lot of ways with the way he played. The way Tiger played very athletically and things like that. Jack was similar, but Jack always had, it's like Tiger had Phil, you know what I mean? Jack had Arnie for a lot of his career that, you know, he had to beat. I remember we talked about when we were at Baltusrol and that 18th hole and the two of them coming down to it right on the, so it was no walk in the park fields that Jack was competing against. But moving on, and we'll get a little bit of a flavor of multiple tours here. The LPGA Tour, Lydia Ko, get this, 10 LPGA Tour victories before she turned 19 years old.
Impressive.
And I know you can make the case that the game and players are getting younger and younger, but she was the tour's youngest winner at 15 years old. You know,
That's
we hear
insane.
I know. We hear these crazy things like a 15-year-old was in the field every once in a while, a 14-year-old, something like that.
What were you guys doing at 15?
Dude, seriously,
you don't want
right?
to know. The show would get canceled if I tell you. What? 15,
no, but for
man.
real, like you're not even old enough to drive a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a punk kid.
And
not winning golf tournaments. Wow.
I can understand, like, you get your phenoms, right? And athletic ability, and they start playing as soon as they're 3 years old. They got a club in their hands, and now they're excelling. And you think even guys like Jordan Spieth and how they played at a young age and all those types of things. But it's to get into a field of adults and adults who are as, you know, well versed in competition as they are. Because there's something between like going out there and firing a par, you know, firing par on a golf course at a young age and then doing it in competition.
Right.
You know, we've had
different world.
Rob Labritz on the show, right? And we picked his brain and talked about like how like the guys on tour, they're just grinders. They just know they've been doing this all. So you think about like when you get on the LPGA Tour, there are people who've been there and stuff like that.
Probably longer than she's been alive at that point.
They've probably been playing golf in competition longer than she's alive. And she comes out and wins at 15. Then it wasn't just an anomaly. You know, she racked in 9 more wins over the next 4 years. So 10 victories before she turned 19. By the age of 18, you got 10 victories under your belt. That seems unbreakable.
Future's bright after that. Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of young phenoms, you know, in the mix, but to be that steady of a winner at that young age is just
How old is she
incredible.
now?
I'm not sure how old Lydia Ko is now. That's why we got this fact checking. That one I can't get you. I got 2 for 2.
She is the 25. I see it on the bottom.
25 years old now.
Can you type in Lydia Ko net worth? I'm just curious. 25 years old. That's your age, Zach, right? Yuppers. She's worth a lot more than you, Zach. No, I don't know. Let's see.
She's got a bit of a head start on you there.
Let's see. Let's just curious. Like, is she up in like a 20 millionaire?
Yeah. No real information.
800,000. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's wrong.
That could be an old article.
That's an old article. Okay.
So moving on from that. So just absolutely incredible. And I like to try to mix in on this list of flavor of different types of records. But another huge one here, and this one, I think there's like almost no debate in it about what it would take to tie or beat Tiger and Sam Snead's total PGA Tour wins record. So they're tied right now at 82 PGA Tour wins. The closest on that list, as you move down it, Jack Nicklaus has 73, and Phil Mickelson has 45. Beyond that, honestly, you move into like the guys who are competing now. Most of them are in the 10, like the high numbers of wins, career wins, 10 to 20.
Yeah, I know he's
10
tied
to 20.
That's crazy.
82 wins.
That's a strong, long career.
You have to be not only longevity, but the pace you have to be on. You've got to be winning at least 6-7 wins per year, and do that for 15 years or more.
Makes me wonder what Sam Snead's numbers were. Because that guy, he won a lot. He won 146 professional wins total.
Yeah.
I know Tiger, when you add them all up, is over 100 as well. But like, what was Snead's period of time? We don't know. It was in the 40s.
He played for a long time as well. But I mean, conceptualize this.
But that record, never
being unbreakable. Is nowadays you think about like when Cantlay got really hot, and we saw him win like 4 or 5.
Yep.
Right. Scheffler, same thing. 3, 4, 5 wins, and the PGA Tour season is a long season.
It's a long season, right? Yeah.
Now, what just shows you have to do that over many. I mean, if you win 5 a year for 10 years, that's 50.
Right.
That puts you high on the list. It puts you in 3rd place.
But you're not going to do
4th place.
No one can win 5 in a year
for 10 years.
But it shows you Tiger had some years where he won probably like 8, 9.
He won an incredible
10.
amount. We're going to talk about some of his streaks even.
And that's what really catapulted him. Yeah, nobody's touching 82. Tiger's top. He's the only guy who could beat it now.
Right. So, I mean, a sidebar question: does Tiger get 83?
I think so. I think he wants to go out on top.
I think Tiger gets 83
somehow, some way. He's not playing in like the Butterfield Bermuda Classic, but I mean,
well, he's just honestly, he's too competitive still. He's far. I know he's not playing as much, but when he does, Tiger is. I mean, we saw him make cuts at majors recently.
Yeah, he made cuts when some bigger names and younger studs did. You can make all
the points you want about how strong the fields are. It's very true, but Tiger still, he's got that winning nature, that winning capability.
Yeah.
Tiger proved, and I think a big part of why we saw Tiger get this many wins is Tiger could win without his A game.
Yes, he can.
That's the huge difference.
But
Tiger could go out there and he would have weeks he did not have his A game and he found a way to win. He always and he admittedly didn't have his A game sometimes, but he found a way to win. So I think Tiger could still do it. I think we see Tiger get 83 and hold that record by himself.
Yeah, it's tough though. I feel like he needs to bring his like triple A game now though. Like I don't think his A game's doing it. Like I think he needs.
Is that like a pun for old people? Triple A?
No. But
well, the one thing Tiger has, which a lot of these young studs don't, is his knowledge of these courses. A lot of them, like take a course like Bay Hill, the guy can like blueprint it in his brain. Torrey Pines, where he's won Bridgestone,
so many times.
Firestone. I mean,
the Masters. I still think he goes into there if Tiger's healthy or if Tiger's at 90%. I take him over guys at 100 because of his knowledge of that place, the way Tiger gets around the greens, on the greens. I mean, that's why we saw him win, the Masters.
His biggest downfall right now is stamina. We see him in the 3rd round starting to limp.
Exactly. If he started using the medical exemption to get the cart, I think that he would just be unstoppable.
Too much pride for it.
I know you guys keep saying that he's got too much pride.
He's not going to win his 83rd with a
I honestly think that
tempo.
Tiger's the guy doesn't want that asterisk.
I know, but I just think he would go on and I think he would really kill it.
Well, that's a great place for you guys to weigh in. Let us know. Do you think Tiger gets 83? Drop it in the comments. Yes, no. We want to hear it. Next record. I told you Byron Nelson would be on here. This is just, you think about this and you try to envision it in today's fields and it's almost impossible. It's almost laughable. But in 1945, he had 11 consecutive wins.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's like winning, if it's weekly, that's like winning every single event through the entire summer. You just win everyone.
Yeah.
And I know what you could say, oh, it's 1945, but there was still a lot of
Byron Nelson
guys who were out there in the field who could win any given week. Tiger, of course, the closest. He made 7 straight wins in 2006 through 2007. And Tiger had another streak of 6 wins in 1999 through 2000. No wonder he was world number 1. I mean, imagine the ranking points you put under your belt when you win, 7 straight times. And for anybody, I mean, 2006, 2007 wasn't that long ago, but we know a lot of younger listeners and viewers of the show might not be able to conceptualize that. I mean, it seems like now we think about how hard it is to win back-to-back on the PGA Tour, 3 times in a row on the PGA Tour. Can you imagine for 7 straight weeks, almost 2 months, every single Sunday, you're watching the PGA Tour and the winner's Tiger Woods?
That's nuts.
You almost can't put yourself in that position anymore. Like, think Scottie Scheffler, world number 1, how dominant he is. Can you imagine 1, 2? Okay, oh wow, Scottie won 2 in a row. 3, wow, Scotty's what?
Scotty's hot.
Streak.
He's hot.
For your front page of every newspaper or whatever. 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, you can't imagine it. You can't put yourself in a position where you even believe that. If you didn't get to see Tiger play.
Incredible.
1999 to 2000, Tiger had 6. But Byron Nelson had 11 wins. And 1945 was a season for Byron Nelson. He had 18 wins on the PGA Tour that season.
Jeez.
11 came in a row.
Wow.
God.
What a season. Wow.
Right.
Jeez.
So now you think, like I said, like when Rory did it recently, DJ did it where they got 3 in a row.
Wasn't World War II going on during that, though?
Yes.
So, like...
You think strength of field was low?
It has to be.
I will not fight you on the fact that there was no way the 1945 field was anything like the fields of today. I totally agree. That's part of it. But I'm saying that's also why, what are we talking about? Unbreakable records. Yeah. I want to say that without also taking anything away from Byron Nelson because, guys, it's Byron Nelson.
Yep.
You know, I mean, he's one of the greatest to ever play the game. But on the same token, you're like, that's factored into the ability to break the record. You got to factor in where the game has evolved to and say 11 is now completely impossible. No one does it.
Yeah.
But hat tip at the same time to, in modern times, Tiger getting 7 straight weeks and then 6 straight weeks. Straight consecutive wins, I should say.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily weeks.
Right.
It's going to be broken up over whatever.
Of course.
But it's still absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, these are wild. I can get lost in these stats. Okay. Sorry.
So anyway, that's a record that I think we got to, as you said, stamp it. 11.
I'm stamping that. Never being broken. Yep.
Byron Nelson, incredible. Here's another one. I when I read these, I almost think they're made up when I really dive into it. But Tiger Woods, again, the Tiger show here, but 142 straight made cuts. Just chew on this for a minute, okay? Tiger did not miss a cut from the 1998 Buick Invitational until the 2005 Byron Nelson Championship. From 1998 to 2005, Tiger did not miss the weekend.
Yeah, he's your OG weekend warrior. Tiger was there for 100.
Dude, what I say earlier, I mean, like, find a way to win. Think about it. Anything. You could have a cold.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, I'm not feeling it today.
Not feeling it.
And just not have your best
Something's
stuff.
off. Yep.
Don't make the weekend.
Yep.
Guy made the weekend.
Some of those cut lines are tough, too.
Yes.
And he made 140, what, 3, 2?
He made 142 straight weeks.
Well, you're talking about the guy who...
3 seasons of straight cuts.
Didn't he win the U.S. Open on a broken leg?
Yeah, essentially. Broken knee.
Right. I mean,
something.
that's what I'm saying. Like, aside from major injuries where he had to completely sit out, he always found a way to be in the hunt. Tiger found a way. And if you're studying the mental game or strategy or just mental perseverance, like, they talk about how champions just kind of like think differently. He even went, and because there's nobody on earth who has their best stuff every single week from 98 to 2005, right? Even when Tiger didn't have his best stuff, he found a way to be in the hunt and that's why he was there on the weekends. And it doesn't mean he win every week, but he was there on the weekends. You know, here again, we see Byron Nelson pop back up. He's Byron's second place. He had 113 straight weeks before he missed a cut. And Jack Nicklaus did 105 straight weeks. So dominance from all three guys. But Tiger, I mean, 98 to 2005, like I said, just kind of like let that sink in and chew on it, not miss a cut.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you have a no-cut season, you've had a great season.
Yes.
And think about that. So like 27 weeks, right? 27 events or so around that.
That's
in
insane.
a year.
Hey,
and you say like, hey, I didn't miss a cut this year.
Yeah. I know. This year.
Try doing it.
Or last year.
Or
the year before.
Right. Try doing it for, what is that? 8 years.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. If you played in 142 PGA Tour events, how many missed cuts would you have?
I'd have missed every cut.
Every single one?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's silly. Like, no, but
these people aren't human.
But what I'm saying more so is like, think about even your world's best players. Rory. I mean, I'll come back to Rory. Rory will miss a cut, here and there, miss a cut. It's not like always. It's a guaranteed weekend.
Right.
So 142 straight made cuts is, again, another one of those ones that is absolutely stamped unbreakable.
That is definitely
especially
unbreakable.
when you look at the list, and second and third place are guys who are no longer playing. Byron Nelson and Jack Nicklaus.
Yep.
So there's nobody in there. Like, one thing I didn't get a chance to look up is what the longest active streak is. Can you look that up real quick, Zach? What's the longest active PGA Tour cuts made streak?
Longest active.
If there's anybody who's even has to pour it on and how far they could go.
Is that even such a streak? Let's see. 100. No. Active. John Rahm? No. Consecutive cuts. Here we go. 18. John Rahm.
John Rahm has 18 consecutive weeks with, so John's just got to do that for like, what is that? 130 more weeks?
Yeah, that's all.
No problem, John. You got this in the bag, buddy.
Yeah, he's got that.
Don't miss a cut for the next 130.
Not going to happen.
Events.
Dude's going to miss a cut.
And you'll be right there with Tiger.
I'm stamping that unbreakable forever.
Unbreakable. All right. The big one. I know everybody's got the tip of the tongue. It's the one that constantly gets talked about. But speaking of Jack Nicklaus, Jack's 18 majors. I mean, it's got to go the unbreakable category.
I think it's unbreakable.
Because the only one who has a chance of doing it, aside from we're talking, here 100 years from now.
Right.
Fast forward, put us in the time capsule 100 years from
Charlie
now.
Woods.
Who knows?
Doing it for his dad.
Right, exactly.
Yep,
What's happened. But Tiger's got 15. Tiger would need 3 more. We're just talking and debating because he has one more PGA Tour win in the bank. I wouldn't even rule out Tiger having one more major. Having some sort of like crazy, it could be a year, 2 years from now.
Augusta
Tiger,
would be his best place.
Well, Phil was 50, right, when he won the PGA? Yeah. So Tiger...
You get a good week, you get hot.
Exactly. Tiger, he could be 48 years old and Tiger have a week where he just plays. And then know the strength of field, but again, the mental toughness of Tiger. So maybe Tiger picks up one more. That puts him at 16. But 18... as far as other active players go, Phil has 6. Phil's 50.
Yeah.
And then the whole move to live. Who knows whether he even be in the field at majors. Rory and Koepka. Koepka now who went over to live. 4. They have 4 apiece. Spieth has 3. So I mean, these guys aren't even in shooting distance of 18. Maybe.
I'm gonna stamp it unbreakable.
I could see a guy like Scotty Scheffler. If he can somehow maintain this form, I could see him going and winning 1 or 2 majors a year for the next couple of years. It's hard to tell. I don't know. I just think he's got that game for it.
Yeah.
The thing with it is, to me, and you look at this past year, you have like Fitzpatrick winning and stuff like that. It's such a thing to win 1 major a year. Because we see such diversity of the winning. You know what I'm saying? Like...
right.
Even when guys get super quick, like dominant, like out of nowhere, like you think about a guy like Cam Smith who got super hot. He can win anywhere. He is proving that. But he may carry that on for a year or 2 years. Maybe Cam wins another major next year. But again, every year thing is what gets me.
Yeah, I just remember hearing something that a lot of players were talking about Scotty Scheffler as like the guy who was always super consistent, always there in the hunt. At a young age he was. But then he just, something in this last year switched and he learned how to win.
Yeah.
So I think if you combine that super consistency that he's had and a lot of these players have said he's had, combine that with now that he's tasted victory.
It's hard to maintain it.
He got what, the Masters this year, right, Scott?
Yeah, 4 wins, including the Masters. But you think of like Jordan Spieth's 2015 season. That was the season that made Jordan Spieth. He had 2 majors, like 5 wins, and he got like the huge Under Armour deal. He was like a big deal after that. This is Scotty's Jordan Spieth season. Guys have these seasons. They don't normally do it again.
Well, and
they fall off.
This is the stat here that really tells you how Jack got there. From 1962 until 1980, Jack never went more than 2 seasons without winning a major. So it also wasn't where Jack had this crazy run where he was winning 4 majors, every major, for 2-3 years in a row. It's that over that long career, he consistently showed up for the majors and would win at least 1 every 2 years. And that's how
showing up, getting it done.
That's just it. He just kept doing it.
I love those guys who show up for those big events and win them. You know what I mean? Like Jack, like Tiger, like
we saw that
Koepka a little
that's
bit.
What we like. The talk was with Koepka.
Yep.
But then he fell off that pace.
Yep.
But just absolutely unbreakable. So let's do this. Let's do a quick break. We're gonna do a word from our sponsors. Then we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about a couple of records that seemingly seem unbreakable, but we'll tell you why we think that they could be broken. They're like right there. They're right there. So let's do a quick word from our sponsors. We'll bounce right back to it. We all have different ability levels and goals, but the one thing we share is a desire to bring our best every time we tee it up. And it all starts with choosing a golf ball you can trust. The Titleist Pro V1 is the best combination of speed, spin, and feel in the game. And the X gives you a higher flight and a firmer feel, but both deliver that long distance, consistent flight, soft feel, and that all important drop and stop greenside control.
Love it.
Nothing better than when you hit that green and you know you're going to hold it. So whether you're Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, or Nelly Korda competing at the game's highest level, or simply striving to be the best you can be, tee up that Pro V1 or Pro V1X and always bring your best. Find out more at Titleist.com.
Guys, FootJoy just released its Thermo series. I noticed you were wearing it the other day at Winding Hills.
Yeah, it got chilly that morning. I needed it.
Chilly, and it's starting to feel cold out there. But guys, the Thermo series is their most advanced apparel layering system ever. It features layering items designed specifically for golf to enable us to play in all weather conditions. Now, this collection has base layers, mid layers, outer layers, and even pants made with materials that help you move without any restriction. They're lightweight to reduce bulk, and they're temperature regulated to ensure maximum comfort no matter how many layers are required. We're usually stacking up layers out there, Frank, and then delayering as we go.
Well, that's the nice part, especially this time of the season. You know what happens. We go out there, it's very cold, and there's a frost delay. That sun comes up. So it's nice knowing that you can kind of take those layers off and stay comfortable the whole day.
100%. And this week, in fact, we're in Vermont, and we just checked the temperatures. It's going to be like 40-something to tee off.
Chilly.
It's going to be cold. So, guys, check out the Thermo series. The fabrics are selected for their thermo properties, but again, the golfer in mind. They are thinking about us, FootJoy always. They make some of the best stuff on the market, and especially for all weather. So check it out, Thermo Series, FootJoy.com.
Okay, so I've got here a couple records, though, that could feasibly be broken.
Okay.
And some of them seem, like I said, when I say feasibly, don't forget, it's going to take a real feat. It's not going to be easy, but it could be done, especially with the position of where people are and things like that. The first one is Seve Ballesteros. He leads the European Tour wins total at 50. 50 wins on the European Tour.
Okay.
Where I think that might be tough is that now kind of the way things work is that if a guy is a real prolific winner over there, they usually make the move over to the PGA Tour.
Right.
There's usually just more visibility, more sponsor money, more bigger payouts, things like that.
They pack up, move to Florida, and join the PGA Tour.
Exactly.
That seems to be the plan.
Move to Jupiter, buy your house, and then whatever. So that might be something that kind of hinders that. You guys rack up some wins over there, and they come play in the PGA Tour. But it is feasible. It's something that is within reach. It's not completely unreachable. It's The idea is there that if you have another person who steps up as being a big winner, they could grab 50 wins over there. I mean, you could debate me. You could let us know in the comments if you think, but we're kind of filing that one under unbreakable. Still like top tier upper
Do we know
echelon,
who's got
tough, but as far as who's the next,
I would say Rory, right? Was it Rory's probably got up
Yeah, I didn't look up the whole European Tour wins list.
Yeah, it's hard.
Rory has 14. Rory has 14. But if you think about it, what is Rory really doing? Maybe 3 European Tour events per season,
right?
So that's a tougher one.
Yeah.
It's got to be a guy who's going to make the commitment to staying over there and really playing those events, because you have to either be so dominant that, let's say you only play 5 European Tour events a year, and you win every one of them for many years.
Not going to happen.
Or you're just staying over there and you're playing all the events and you're still dominant.
Right.
It would take no matter what, it would take a long career, and it would take a long career putting in a lot of reps, so to speak, on the European Tour.
So Rory won the FedEx Cup this year, right?
That's right. Yep.
So, and he's also going for the race to Dubai or whatever, the European or DP World Tour.
Correct. Currently, that's what's on right now.
So, how is he able to do that points wise if he's been on the PGA Tour the whole year?
I think it's got a similar playoff system. Now, admittedly, I don't watch it as close as I watch the PGA Tour, but I think it's just as long as you can get into that playoffs, that's where he can just kind of try to win his way.
Play well and do well at the playoffs.
Yeah. By the way, this stat: 42 Bernhard Langer, 41 Tiger Woods, European Tour wins. Colin Montgomery, 31. These guys, and Faldo, these guys aren't even active anymore, really. Then you got like Ernie Els, Lee Westwood at 25. He's not even on tour anymore. Sam Tor. I mean,
so again, when I say unbreakable, we're saying out over the next
time capsule,
whatever
machine.
time frame it is.
Gotcha.
But it would be tough.
Don't let Bernhard Langer get hot.
It's on that line. Now here's one that you wonder: could it be broken? Jim Furyk's 58.
Yes. I think with all modern technology and long distance and long drive hitters and stuff.
But what goes against that is also how they set up the courses now. Yeah. You got to get a course that's set up for it. You think about during the season, the couple places guys tend to go really low, like TPC River Highlands.
That's the spot.
Like that. But get this. The lowest round ever of golf recorded according to Guinness World Records. Do you want to guess what that is?
54.
It's not bad a guess. And it's not, what's his name? Kim Jong-un's.
It's not 18.
Or whatever he had, the first and only time he ever played golf.
Yep.
Yeah, no. This is held by Rain Gibson. It's a 55.
Oh, wow.
He had 12 birdies and 2 eagles on a par 71.
Good for this guy.
But that was not in competition. However, it was validated and recorded.
Okay.
There are, though, and again, this is where there's a certain element of it. We saw Finau the other day. Didn't he shoot a casual 60 on like an 8,000 yard?
Casual.
Lipped out 4 putts.
Yeah. And that's just, him playing with the boys and stuff like that.
Right.
In competition, it's always going to be different. Obviously,
sure, of course.
Right? But in competition, there are 2 documented rounds of 57. One came, believe it or not, came at the junior championship. It was the 2010 Alabama Boys Junior Championship. Bobby Watt shot a 57 as a junior. And then you have Alex Ross in the 2019 Dogwood Invitational. Mm-hmm. So we're not talking about necessarily PGA Tour events.
Dogwood Invitational.
The Dogwood Invitational. But there are true competitive events. Mm-hmm. So it's in competition.
Right.
So if those guys do it, it's totally feasible that if a guy is in that zone, 59 watch zone, and just a couple extra putts drop, like I'm talking like somebody's like lasered in and the putts are dropping, it is feasible. Again, easy, certainly not, but someone could shoot 57. It could
be
happen.
awesome to see.
Do you think you guys will ever be able to shoot 57? 2-man scramble?
2-man scramble?
Yeah, 2-man scramble.
I think eventually, but maybe not. I think break at 65 would be a feat for us.
It would be a feat.
Yeah.
I don't think, no, I think.
And we're a 2-man team, so.
Right. If you took 2 pros in a 2-man scramble.
I think, you put 2 legit pros with each other.
The putts have to go down.
The putts have to go down.
And the course has to be set for it. So another one here, and this is one that, who we keep talking about is Tiger. Mm-hmm. Tiger could, if what happens, what we spoke about earlier, Tiger could feasibly break this record. But Jack Nicklaus holds the record for most years between his first and last major win. It's 24 years. So Jack won the 1962 U.S. Open.
1986 Masters.
The 86 Masters, the big,
so tell me
Jack
Tigers.
moment. Yep. Right. So Tiger would need another major to beat him. His first was 1997.
Okay.
So at this point, if he wins, let's say it would be 2023. That would be a 26-year span.
And he'd have the record.
All right. So when
that's
Tiger
breakable.
won in 2019, so that kept him short of the record. I think that's 23 years.
Yeah.
But if Tiger does at any point in the rest of his career
100%.
win a major, he beats that streak and he becomes the longest gap between your first and last major win.
How wild would it be if Tiger won the Masters this April?
That'll be, forget about it.
Yeah, when he does, it's going to be when he breaks that record. So I'm stamping that breakable. That's breakable.
That one's, I think it's definitely breakable. And I don't know if it's this year. I don't know if it's sometime.
But we said he might get one more major.
Just what Phil did, winning at 50.
That gives signs of hope. Yep.
That gives signs of hope.
And Kiowa's not an easy course. So,
No, and it's a long course. Something could happen. Tiger, it could be clicking. Tiger, I think he's going to, unless another major injury or something, I think you see Tiger take his 4 cracks a year. We didn't see it this year. He sat out. I forget which major he sat out. But I think you see Tiger take his, he get in competition where he needs to be. And I think that's where we can see Tiger win that other PGA Tour event. Tiger's probably going to be in a couple events here and there so that he can get into form for the majors. He wants to be in competition form. And I think you see Tiger try as best he can to be in the field for the 4 majors. And if he is, I think over the next 3 years, it's possible. 3 years, that makes 12 shots. 12 chances.
Yep.
Tiger might win one.
You know what?
It's not easy. None of this is
easy.
easy. I'm not saying nothing's a lock, but it might happen.
I'd love to see a Tiger Woods retirement tour where it's his final year. He goes on the farewell and he plays every event that season. We see him at the Wyndham, the Travelers, but he just goes for it. The Zurich, he's got a teammate, everything.
I get it, but he couldn't do it.
And then he just goes into an ice bath for 5 years. That would be the end.
Just
a cryogenic chamber.
Freeze Tiger. In between.
But he might in a 40 event season with Tiger. If he's in full field every event. God. How many events does he win?
This poor guy's a human being. You want to freeze
does he
him
win
from
2?
Monday through Wednesday? Oh my God.
I say he wins 2 events if he plays every event on tour next season.
I don't think it's absolutely any way feasible for him to play every event because he's already expressed that that's the hardest part for him.
He wouldn't be able to get up at a bed.
Right, because he's got to be able to physically.
He'd have to just show up on Thursdays and play. He can't even do the practice.
No pro-ams, no
pro-ams, nothing.
How's he going to win if he can't even practice?
It's Tiger Woods, man. He shows up for his tee time.
This guy, he wants to freeze this poor guy.
So do you think Tiger's kind of hanging on right now to try and play on the tour with his son?
That would be cool.
That would be really cool to see him play a tour event. To have both of them in the field.
I don't think it's Charlie that's the undone work. I think it's some of these records we're rattling off. I think that's what's undone for
It'll
him.
be interesting to see what path he and his father choose anyway. Does Charlie, here's a guy.
He's got a long way to go.
Right, he's got a long way to go. But
for sure.
He's playing incredibly. There's no doubt about it. But is it one of those things? Does he go to college like his father did? Does he go the traditional route? And does he play on a college team? Or is he good enough? And does he go for young records? Does he say, because Tiger was so record driven. You talk about, hear the stories Tiger said where he hung up Jack's records in his bedroom and was just trying to think about and visualize crossing them off. If Charlie is similarly driven and wants to go for the young records, he might say, hey, I'm going to skip college and go pro and start playing at 18.
Yeah, so exactly.
17.
He's 13 right now. So
5 more years.
5 years, 4 years.
It could be his final event, Tiger. That could be his way to go out. He plays an event with his son.
Pass the torch.
5 years from now.
You never know. It was a lot up in the air. But
Charlie could play in an event at as early as 15.
He definitely could.
Right. So in 2 more years, he could play in a tour event.
Right. Didn't Justin Thomas play an event at that age?
He can get an exemption to the Byron Nelson or something.
Wouldn't surprise me at all because I think there'll be people lining up to give him sponsors exemptions because of the eyeballs
lining up.
Ring.
And I wonder if Tiger would even enter the field as a result of it, like you said.
Right. But I think what you'll see is Tiger being very less chasing that spotlight and being much more calculating in the way that he assists Charlie in his career and the progression of his career, and not try to make some of the mistakes. I don't even call them mistakes, but how Tiger was thrust and pushed into the spotlight. I think he's trying to protect Charlie from some of that. I could see Tiger being I want to make sure his game's where it needs to be.
Sure.
What if Tiger just becomes his full-time caddy? Because I know Tiger was on his bag when he just recently shot the 68.
It wouldn't be a bad coach and caddy to have.
Yeah, I don't.
How sick would that be though?
4 rounds though, carrying a bag.
Yeah, I don't see that
put him on one of those
That's not
motorcycles like at the Grove.
That's what we all need. Is Tiger on a motorcycle on a Sunday. Unbelievable. Imagine that. But anyway, listen, like I said, those are some of the unbreakable records. You guys weigh in the comments. We always invite you to do so. We love reading the conversation. Let us know if there's anything on this list that you think maybe is breakable where we say it isn't, or isn't breakable when we say it is. Love to hear that take. This has been a fun one. There's definitely, it gives you perspective, if anything else, about how good these guys really are and were. Just absolutely incredible. If you're not already subscribed, make sure you subscribe. We'll see everybody again next week.